Hi and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave and this is episode 1134B and today's date is November 22nd, 2016, and the title of the episode is The Shadow Government Central Bankers Are Now Resorting to Fear This Holiday Season. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now out in Ukraine it looks like they've gotten their orders to provoke Russia any way they can, and right now Ukrainian intelligence services, well, they're carrying out a provocation against Russia. They kidnapped 2 military servicemen in Crimea. And Russia right now is saying that this is absolutely ridiculous. They're trying to provoke Russia into doing something. And we can see right now Kiev is following the orders of the United States government, central bankers, the shadow government, and they are pushing their agenda. They want Russia to do something. We see Turkey right now says, listen, we're going to drop the EU and we're going to go over to the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. But China and Russia might say to Turkey, listen, if you want to do this, you need to minimize relations with NATO first. And we can see that this could happen. Russia right now is deploying its newest anti-ship missiles to the Kuril Islands, and they installed a battery of these anti-ship missiles in this area, and we can see that Russia is preparing their nuclear weapons because they realize that the central bankers, the shadow government, they're still trying to push their goal forward, a war with Russia, and they will not let up. We can see that the Islamic State in Iraq and in Syria, they have used chemical weapons 71 times. And Lavrov is out there saying that the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons refuses to send its experts to Aleppo to check substances used by rebels in attacks. He says this move was seemingly done under pressure from the West, because they really don't want anyone to see what's really going on there. And what's really going on is that the terrorist groups that are supported by the United States government, the central bankers, they are using chemical weapons in Syria. We see that Russia, the foreign minister, is accusing the UN Special Envoy, Staffan de Mistura, of sabotaging the resolution backing peace talks between the Syrian government. And again, they're saying that he is doing this under the influence of the West. Now, we've been talking about what has been going on in Syria for quite a while. We know a lot that's coming out of Syria is completely fake, phony, and false. And we see that the United States uses a lot of propaganda. And the white helmets, well, guess what? They're part of the system. They use deception, they use propaganda to push the agenda for the West. This is a U.S. European funded Syrian civil defense group, which is known as the White Helmets. Now, very interestingly, there was a video that was leaked, and it's on the x22report.com site. If you're on YouTube, you can see it on YouTube, where rescuers went in to save these civilians. Now, what happened was in the video, they panned around. Everyone froze like mannequins, like that challenge that they have going on right now. Everyone just froze. The camera panned around. They used dust. And when the person said action, all of a sudden, everything came to life. The guy starts screaming. And the whole thing is completely put on. And we can see right now, this is the type of propaganda that they have been using. We've seen this in many false flags. And we can see right now that most of what is happening in Syria that the United States is reporting on is pure propaganda. We see ammunition that was bound for the Syrian moderate rebels. Well, guess what? It just so happened to end up in the Islamic State hands. Some of it ended up in al-Nusra's hands. Some of it ended up in Al-Qaeda's hands. Well, this ammunition, well, it was meant to end up in the terrorist hands, because the United States government, the central bankers, they support the terrorist groups, all of them, in this region. We see the Syrian army is out there telling the terrorists, allow the civilians access to the food, because the terrorists confiscated a warehouse and it had tons of food in it, and they weren't allowing the civilians access to it. They were keeping it for themselves. And we can see right now the terrorists aren't letting the people out of Aleppo. They're not letting them access the corridors. They are picking them off one by one if they try to escape. And we see right now that Syria is now creating a new anti-terrorism force. And it looks like they're going to be using this force to clean up the rest of the terrorists. And we can see right now the Islamic State, al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, the moderate rebels, well, they are losing ground. This is why Mistura, the UN envoy, was out there saying, hey, why don't we just split up Aleppo? And we can see what their plan is. They want to split Syria. Right now, Turkey is setting up a second military base in Syria, right in Aleppo. So let's get this straight here. The United States has 2 bases that it built in Syria. France has 1 base that it built in Syria. Turkey has 2 bases that it built in Syria. And Turkey is saying, hey, we need a no-fly zone in here. We need to separate this area and call it a safe zone. You can see what they're doing. They're very slow, very methodical on how they do this. And then eventually what they're going to do is come out and say, this is why we need a separation. This is why the Kurds need their area. This group needs their area. We need to create this safe zone. They're going to push this as hard as they want because they want Syria. Their goal is to get Syria to build that pipeline, eventually go into Iran. We see out in India, there was a major cyber attack. About 3.2 million debit cards of major public and private banks have been compromised by a cyber malware attack in ATM systems and the National Payment Corporation of India. And we see right now many people don't have access to their funds. We see the central bank in Russia is warning about possibility of strengthening of various attacks on the Russian banks come this new holiday season. Most likely, it might be coming from the United States because, as we know, they did promise a cyber attack in Russia. And again, Putin took control of the central banks, and most likely they're going to try to hit the financial institutions of Russia. This is why they brought the fuel prices down, the oil prices down, to put pressure on Russia to try to collapse it like they did back during the Soviet Union. It didn't work out. So you can see where they're going with this. They're provoking. We see the central bankers, the shadow government. They are using fear this holiday season. They are warning U.S. citizens that are in Europe, be very careful during this holiday season. They have information that there might be some type of terrorist attack here in the United States. They're saying during Thanksgiving, during the holiday seasons, there could be some type of terrorist attack. And of course, they had their arrest that they made in Times Square where they thwarted some type of terrorist attack. And we know most of these individuals are patsies. The FBI sets them up. They work with a handler. Most of the time they have no clue what's going on. Sometimes they even have mental disabilities. And these are the individuals the FBI picks on when they're trying to create propaganda that they have arrested real terrorists. And it always turns out that these cases are thrown out because it's entrapment. They set it up. They supplied all the equipment. And we can see right now they are resorting to fear right now because we can see what's happening. They want to keep control. They want to reach their goals. They want globalism. They want the war, and they're going to push as hard as they possibly can until they get it. And at this point, people should be more worried than ever before, because now they're running against time. Now they're realizing, well, wait a minute, we can't lose this power. We better do something ahead of schedule. And we can see they're already pushing this. And we need to be prepared. We need to be ready, because we know the collapse is coming. We know they're going to start war. We know they're going to provoke until they get a war. And I don't believe they're ever going to stop. And this is why everyone at this point needs to double their effort on preparing for what is coming. Because we know for a fact that all the data that we've been looking at, this economy is deteriorating, it's collapsing, and the things the government is telling us, the things the central bank is telling us, the thing the corporate media is telling us, it makes no sense. Just like in 2008, when those individuals look at the subprime security and said, this doesn't make any sense. And of course it didn't, because it was complete garbage, and the whole thing was an illusion. And guess what? It came collapsing down. The same thing's going to happen now, but it's going to be much, much worse. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.